Good morning, or is it good afternoon, good evening? I don't know where you are, but good day. Welcome to the Ask the Expert session on Stop Managing Compliance with Spreadsheets, Simplify and Extend Compliance Beyond Microsoft 365. My name is Francois van Hemert, and I will be your moderator today. This session is related to DB170, and we have our experts standing by to answer all your questions on Compliance Manager and the new connectors. Please use the chat function to ask questions. We have a team of moderators that will answer and do their best to answer all your questions and bring them to our live panel. However, we know that there can be a high volume of questions and we might not be able to answer them all. If you see a question you like that somebody else has put in the chat window, feel free to give it a thumbs up so that you can bring it to our attention. Be aware that this session will be recorded and also the questions and the answers. If you don't want to be part of the recording, let us know and you can leave the session right now. To help our moderators to be as efficient as possible, please do not spam the channel for the Q&A or post any inappropriate messages. And of course, we want to ask you to adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct for the whole event. And for now, I'd like to introduce to you the panel of experts that we have online. I want to ask them to introduce themselves, and we'll go from left to right. So, Rohit, the floor is yours. Be sure to unmute.
Sure. Thank you, Francois. Hi, everyone. I'm Rohit. I am a senior PM on the compliance PM team here in the Security and Compliance org. And my team works on data connectors as well as compliance core and compliance center as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit. Elliot.
Thanks. My name's Elliot. I'm a program manager in the Microsoft Compliance Engineering team, and my primary focus is on our Compliance Manager product, which just went GA yesterday.
Congratulations. Hardik.
Hey everyone, so I'm part of compliance manager team and also along with that with Elliot. My primary focus area is to help our customers to onboard with compliance management capabilities. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you very much. Ingrid hasn't joined yet, but as soon as she joins, she will be part of the panel. So let's get started on the first question, and I'm going to ask that to you, Elliot. The things that Compliance Manager can do can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of functionality, a lot of features that can be done. Can you recommend the best practice on how to get started and what would be the logical steps to go through Compliance Manager deployment and usage?
Yeah, thanks, Francois. So to get started, certainly Compliance Manager will give you some initial information about how you're doing. We provide an initial baseline called the Microsoft Data Protection Baseline, which draws from a number of international standards and regulations, including GDPR, NIST, and ISO standards. So that provides kind of a good initial score that you can use to understand your current best practices and compliance progress. But what makes the tool especially powerful is your ability to tailor it to your specific compliance requirements. So we have what are called assessment templates, each of which represents a specific regulation or standard. So you can set these up in your instance by creating assessments from them. So for example, if you're interested in evaluating yourself against SOC or ISO, you can go ahead, set those up, and you'll immediately start being scored against those standards, as well as receive action recommendations in how you can improve your progress towards complying with those regulations. So I would say making sure you get those assessments set up and starting to look at those recommendations is a great way to ensure that you're getting started on the right foot with Compliance Manager.
Great answer. Thank you, Elliot. I heard you talk about the score, and I have a question for Hardik then. Hardik, and this is a question I've heard myself too. If you reach the maximum score, does that mean that you're compliant? Is there a legal value to that?
Yep, that's a great question. So what we are helping our customers in a way is that we when customers are facing challenges in onboarding with the regulatory needs, so that is where the scoring mechanism helps into the picture. But when it comes to ensuring, or when it comes to that, hey, is it 100% guarantee that is something? So that is where we have auditing view as well. So customers can go, and also they can evaluate themselves with the auditing process as well, and that is where the final confirmation comes into the picture.
Thank you. Elliot, building on this question, because we already heard audits, and auditors like to see what you've done and how you've done it and how it worked and what the results were. Does Compliance Manager have a report functionality that generates report for these external auditors to use?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Compliance Manager, we track our compliance against specific regulations through those assessments that I discussed. Each of those assessments, in representing a specific regulation or standard, contains all of the control framework that makes up that regulation or standard, and then the specific actions that a customer could take to meet those controls, as well as the specific actions that Microsoft has already taken on the customer's behalf within the M365 product space as part of the shared responsibility model. So customers can always export those assessments in order to see a comprehensive report on how they are progressing in their work against a specific regulation, as well as exporting a broader view of their actions. And as those customers take those actions specifically, they're able to take notes and upload documentation and then get those in that report as well.
Thank you. Another question that I've heard. I think I'm going to go back to Hardik. Does an admin, so you have these assessments within the assessment templates, the assessments within Compliance Manager, and I guess you're updating them regularly. Does an admin get a notification if the Microsoft team is working on updating them? How do they know that something has changed?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So as and when the templates or the regulations are getting changed, and it is the updates are coming up, so in our system or in our UI, you will definitely get a differentiated experience where we will clearly explain you that, okay, hey, what are the updates coming up in the regulation, what has been changed, how it is getting affected to your current assessments, and so forth. And it once the customer has a clear understanding that what is the impact of those updates, then they have a choice to whether to accept that update and continue with the regulation and so forth, or they might need a little bit more time to evaluate and then continue. So that's the entire fundamental experience we have come up with in terms of regulatory updates in our system.
Thanks, Hardik.
Yeah.
Talking about the assessments, Elliot, I've heard you're providing over 150 assessments when you went GA or available. What if a regulation is so new that it's not on the list? I'm interested in or a customer is interested in a regulation or a standard that is not yet available. Will there be more regulations in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you suggested, we already have over 150 different regulations and standards available, but as new regulations come out, we are constantly reevaluating what our customers need and how we can best serve them. And that certainly includes adding additional templates, which represent new or more niche regulations that we don't offer today. In addition to that, we do offer the ability for customers to create their own custom templates inside Compliance Manager. which can involve creating a template that would represent a regulation that doesn't exist today, or doesn't exist in the system today, a regulation that is custom to that customer's own business, or even a template or regulation that concerns other products or services that aren't covered today within Compliance Manager.
Thank you. Question for Rohit about compliance data connectors. What are the key value propositions for these new connectors?
Sure. Thank you, Francois. The key value propositions for these connectors are something that we've heard from our customers for a long time, which is, to support and, really make very ingrained into our system the fact that our customers today have heterogeneous environments, right? They're not all Microsoft and we don't expect them to be. So this is about taking compliance and meeting our customers wherever they are, right? So the intent with these new connectors is to recognize and respect the heterogeneity of the customer system and get all of the popular data sources into Microsoft 365 so that our solutions can create value on top of them, right? And like you mentioned, we have 25 connectors in the catalog as of today, which our customers can go out and use. And there are many more on the way and on our roadmap. And this is something we would love to hear more from our customers about.
Thank you, Rohit. We're going to stay with you because there's another question, a follow-up question on this. Where is the connector data stored? And the second question is, do all connectors work with every compliance solution?
Great question. So for most of the connectors, right, which bring data that is not sensitive from a human resources point of view, this is going to get stored in the respective user's mailbox, right? So let's say Elliot and I are having a Slack chat, right? And our organization decides to bring in this data into M365, right? This is a copy of this is going to live in Elliot's mailbox as well as my mailbox, right? For the connectors which do have sensitive data, right, such as the HR connector that is used by the Insider Risk Management solution, the data goes and lives in the audit pipeline because, of course, we don't want this data to be visible to everybody. Okay. As for the data being available to all solutions, yes, in general, it is available to all solutions, but of course, we also have to keep in mind the fact that not all solutions may have active use cases that are looking at using that data. So as of today, a lot of the SS+C solutions, such as advanced e-discovery, information governance, records management, insider risk management, all of these have access to the data that we bring in.
Thank you, Rohit. Going back to Elliot, question on Compliance Manager again. My company has its own custom compliance framework. Can I implement that in Compliance Manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So using that same custom template functionality, you can create a template that represents a custom regulation. Oftentimes we've found that these custom regulations draw from existing regulations or standards, like various ISO and NIST standards. So one helpful thing about the tool is that since we already support most of those standards out of the box, and each of our templates contains all of those controls that are part of those standards, you can actually export that out of the tool and use those as building blocks to create your own regulation. So if you are in the financial industry and you have a custom regulation that incorporates ISO 27001 and a NIST framework and a couple other more custom regulations, you can export in R format those regulations. You can combine them with your own controls and actions, and then push them back into Compliance Manager as your own custom assessment template. And that will behave just in the same way as any other assessment that you create from one of the out-of-the-box assessment templates. It would contribute to your score. You can report on it. The actions that you need to take there would be in the same space as where you do all the other actions in Compliance Manager. So you can use the tool to manage your compliance more comprehensively across different regulations and different product spaces that way.
Thank you. Building on this question, and I think I'm going to stick with you. What if I want to assess a non-Microsoft environment? For example, like Salesforce or any other environment. Can Compliance Manager do something for me in that area too?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, when we provide out-of-the-box templates to our customers, they have actions that focus on recommendations that pertain to the Microsoft 365 product space, especially in their ability to leverage existing solutions that we offer, because we can provide deeper integrations there. But because we have a comprehensive overview of the regulation, regardless of what product it pertains to, in terms of that control framework and mapping, you can take that and apply those actions to whatever product or solution that you're using. So again, you can leverage that custom assessment template functionality, and you can choose that instead of scoping this to a product like Microsoft 365, you could scope it to Salesforce or to SAP or another product. So you could simultaneously track your progress against GDPR across Microsoft 365, across Salesforce, across SAP, and roll those all up at the GDPR certification level and your overall compliance score level, and then also slice at the product granularity to look at how you're performing against each of those regulations in their relevant product space.
Thank you. Switching over to Hardik. Is there a user voice website for the Compliance Center and Compliance Manager? Can I share my feedback with you? And I think this is a very valuable question because I've been involved in the very early Compliance Manager product, and I've seen that so many of the suggestions of our partners and our customers came into the product, and that's what we're seeing right now. Customer assessments is one of the big things, number one ask, and it made it to the product. How do our customers interact with your team to share their ideas and feature asks and things like that?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. So yes, the short answer is yes, we do have a user voice. So the URL is uservoice.microsoft.com. And we do prioritize our customers' ask based on that as well. And of course, customers can go and post their questions on that on that forum as well. One of the other angle which I want to bring on the table is so if the customer is using our any security and compliance product, they by themselves has the feedback option available in the web experience as well. So if the customer is willing to provide any feedback, they can use the same mechanism as well, and then we will triage and iterate those feedbacks as well. So those are a couple of areas from which customers can give us the feedback as well. And of course, we do have our support teams and our marketing teams and so forth, from which also we are getting a lot of feedbacks as well. So there are multiple angles from which anything would be acceptable for from a customer's perspective. So yes.
Thank you. Switching over to Rohit now, and I think this is quite related to the user voice. Customers that have a need for their own connector, for example, a CSV or an XML import file. There are two questions. Will you consider customer request? And will you provide the option to build them yourself?
Okay. So in general, Francois, we are always open to listening to our customers, right? So, please do reach out to us. There is an email that you may want to use, dcfeedback@microsoft.com. So if there are questions, just do send them to this, and I promise we will take a look. Coming to the specific question about allowing customers to import their own data, such as generic XML and similar. So if you see the connectors that we have shipped to GA today, you will find that there are two generic importers for email as well as for text delimited importer that are already part of that list. In addition to that, we do have plans in future to make our ecosystem more accessible by opening up our APIs. Of course, there isn't a timeline that we can commit to publicly right now, but yes, that is very much on our roadmap, and we would love to know more about the use cases and what kind of data our customers would like to bring into M365 for compliance purposes.
Thank you. Thank you. Elliot, back to you. And this is a long question. I had to read it 3 times, but let me try to summarize it. It starts off with, will Compliance Manager help the customer ask the right questions, for example, on GDPR? And then it goes on and asks about, if you look at, for example, the Office 365 diagnostics data, is Compliance Manager advising on that? And the way I interpret the question is, also from a Microsoft perspective, the shared control responsibility. Can you tell a little bit more about what the Microsoft controls are and how they influence Compliance Manager?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually just typing a response to this question in the chat as well. So yeah, I think the Microsoft responsibility that you highlight is a big part of this. I would zoom back a little to say, if, for example, you do choose to create a GDPR assessment in Compliance Manager, what Compliance Manager is going to do for you in terms of helping you ask the right questions is provide all of the controls of GDPR. You can go through, read them, understand them, and then provide a list of actions, each of which would be mapped to one or more controls. So if you jump in and you're interested in complying with a specific control of GDPR, that's going to be part of that assessment. You can dive into that control, you can read all of the control text, and then you can see the actions both on the customer side and the Microsoft side that we think should be taken in order to be compliant with that specific control. And in terms of the Microsoft side, those are actions that Microsoft has already done on your behalf in this kind of cloud service provider shared responsibility model. So sometimes there are controls that Microsoft has done all of the work for. Sometimes those are controls where Microsoft has done some of the work and you're expected to do some. And then some of the controls, of course, would be entirely your responsibility. But by providing that detail, you're able to understand what Microsoft has done on your behalf for that regulation already, read through our independent audit results and test results and details of how we implemented to be compliant with that specific control, and then allow you to evaluate your own instance, ask those correct questions, change any configuration or policies that you need to do the rest of the work to become compliant with that regulation.
Thank you. Back to Hardik. Hardik, we heard about the Microsoft 365 data protection baseline, and that's what you use to create or to calculate the score. Can you tell me a bit more about this yet another standard?
So can you explain your question a little bit more? When you say, can you explain yet another standard? What does that mean?
Yes. We have all these, the way I interpret the question, we have all these regulations out there. We have the GDPR, we have the Brazilian Privacy Act, the Californian Privacy Act. And
Correct.
Instead of using these, we now use the Microsoft security baseline or the privacy baseline as a standard for compliance manager. Can you tell me a bit about the reasoning behind this and what it is, where it comes from?
Got it. Yeah, thanks for asking this question. So actually, the Microsoft Data Protection Baseline are a group of controls which we as a Microsoft thinks that bare bone or the fundamental capabilities which customers should implement at the first time. For example, if there are some customers who are onboarding to cloud services, or there are some customers who are just starting their journey to the compliance management world itself. So now instead of completely jumping to the bigger world, which is like GDPR or FFIC and those worlds and meeting with the requirements, now first thing, what are those bare bone things which I as a customer needs to do so that I can become a little bit confident that, hey, I have mitigated or I have done some sort of activities which ensures that, okay, I'm meeting the bare bone regulatory requirements and so forth. So that is the purpose of fundamental Microsoft Data Protection Baseline is, and then eventually customers can start their journey with the next level of regulatory words and so forth.
Thank you. Back to Elliot. We talked about custom controls, or sorry, custom assessments. Can I also build my own custom controls, and can I make sure that they are also automatically updated if something changes?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the question. So yes and no. I think there's a couple nuances to jump into here. So when you are creating your own custom assessment, you have the option of starting with one of our control mappings. So again, if you are working on GDPR, but you'd like to adapt it to Salesforce, you can just take our controls that we already have for GDPR, go from there, and then add on your own Salesforce actions. But you can also start from scratch and create your own controls, your own regulations, that sort of thing. In doing so, you can still reference the actions that we already have in the system. If when you need to implement this specific regulation, you still want to enable two-factor authentication in Intune, or you still want it noted that Microsoft has taken a specific action on your behalf. You can link in those actions that we already have into your custom controls and custom template. And if those actions are automated, if they are the type of actions where we are already looking at your configuration and providing test results, you will continue to receive those. If you want to build a totally custom action, whether it's addressing something outside of our product boundary, or it's just a recommendation that we don't offer today, you can certainly do that, but at this point it would need to be manually attested to by you or by an assessor or contributor that you designate through our permission model. We're certainly looking to enhance your flexibility in terms of automating your own custom actions in that manner. But today, if you are building a totally custom action, it would be manually attested.
Thank you. We're running till the end of the session. I think we still have time for one question. I'm going to direct that to Hardik. Hardik, we have an enormous amount of assessments now right out of the box, these 150. Where can I find information about what is currently in the product and what is coming and what it is you're planning to add?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, so as you can see that from our UI as well, from our product itself, you can get a glimpse of that. Okay, what all assessments has been shipped this year, and what is also we are coming up with. On top of that, we do have our documentation portal where we are updating all of our information. You can go to docs.microsoft.com and you can see that all the details about hey, what's coming up in the compliance manager world. And also in the compliance center, there is an option or the button which tells that, okay, hey, what all new functionalities are coming up. Its feature is called as what's new feature. So over there as well, you can take a look and you can get an update about that. Okay, what all capabilities are coming up in the compliance manager. So these are the 3 different places from where customers can get updates.
Thank you. Well, we're at the end of our session. I would really love to thank the panel members for sharing their knowledge and answering all these questions. But I also want to send out a big thanks to the people in the background. We have people answering all the questions in the Q&A panel, especially Anders, Erica, Raphael, and Sejun. Thank you for all your hard work. If I put one slide on that has some additional resources around compliance and compliance manager. If you want to know more, there's an AKA link that will get you to all the information that you need. I would strongly recommend you to start exploring the new compliance manager products and start working with compliance manager in a real life environment. With that, I really want to thank you all. I hope you have a great day and you have a great night. Thank you.